Integrity, ethics, and morality are the top of our list of everything that we do. VPN, EDR, these things that we can install on a machine that are going to help, but you are the one behind the keyboard.
The AI that's coming out that's just going to create a whole other layer of complexity in how you help people stay secure.
As the saying goes, when God closes a door, he opens a window, and that's exactly what happened.
All right, we're back with another episode here on Thrive Local. Excited for today's episode. We have Matt Yesbeck, who is the co-owner of Yesteck IT Services and a seasoned veteran in the IT industry with over 25 years of experience. Matt has worked with a wide range of small and medium-sized businesses, spanning multiple industries as well as local and federal government agencies. In 2023, Matt and his son Gage teamed up to launch Yesteck, which with a mission to provide small businesses in Richmond, Virginia, with innovative, secure, and streamlined IT solutions. Yesteck has quickly become a trusted partner for businesses looking to integrate a fully outsourced in-house IT department. No office space needed. Matt's dedication to helping companies thrive with simplified yet powerful IT strategies is evident in everything he does. And I'm excited to have him on this journey, sharing his insights in the ever-evolving tech landscape that we live in this modern world. So with that said, Matt, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jake. Thank you for having me, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about, just to kind of kick things off, is in 2023 is when you launched Yesteck, and I'd love for you to just tell me a little bit about kind of what brought you to wanting to start this business and kind of transition this into your career, because you've been doing IT for over 25 years.
Yeah,
and you're working with your son. Tell me a little bit about that transition and what led you to make that decision.
Yeah, so a brief history of us, and the two of us specifically, is I have been working in Richmond in the IT industry for 28 years now, and working for different companies, whether it be a big corporation directly as their in-house IT lead, or for a managed service provider where we supported multiple customers. And have done that for, like I said, for a very long time, just climbing that corporate ladder right out of college. And through the years, when you work in this industry, and especially if you work for MSPs where they're putting you on contract, if that contract doesn't get renewed or it expires and there's nowhere else for you to go, you inevitably face that layoff moment. And that had happened to me 5 or 6 times in the last 28 years. And then on the last contract that I was on, I was at the Philip Morris Manufacturing Center here off of 95 as their end user computing architect. So I just worked in a lab and was architecting solutions through SCCM and task sequencing and things like that. Anything that would touch the endpoint would be my responsibility to architect the solution to touch those machines. So was there for almost 9 years. And then this past June, the contract didn't renew, and Altria had awarded it to an Indian based company. So it was essentially shipped overseas. And so therein lied my seventh and final layoff, because at that point I was just done.
Yeah.
I had spent 28 years working for other people and helping them realize their dreams. And I, at this point, felt like it was time to start to realize my own. Where my son came into the picture is he graduated college in 2018 with a business degree, and kind of nondescript, didn't really focus in on any real particular specialty. So getting out, he had just was kind of deciding what to do. He decided that, like his father, he wanted to go into IT. So with a little bit of help, I had gotten him in front of an MSP that I had worked with for years prior to that, and from there, his personality and his go-getter attitude took over, and he spent 5 years with them, working all the way from a greenhorn phone guy up to their MSP director. Did that in the course of that 5 years, and unfortunately, because of business shifting, they also laid him off. So here we are.
Yeah.
We're both, and we're talking June of this year, because yes, we did incorporate our business last February of 23, and we had both talked about potentially coming in and working together full time, but we were both very comfortable in our corporate jobs. So we weren't really going to give up those paychecks and that safety net. But providentially, we were just thrust into this moment in June, and we just figured this has got to
Hmm.
be the time. This is just it's more than coincidental. So with that being the case, we both jumped in full time in June of this year, got an office space in the town of Chester, which is close to where we both live, and we're going for it.
Mm. Well, I applaud your awareness and courage to kind of take that step into going out on your own. It
Yeah.
almost sounds like in the IT space specifically that is it mostly contract work? Is that how typical you're a contractor? Are you is that different, I guess, than being
Yeah.
an employee for the company? So
Well,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, so well, so I am employed by the MSP that was awarded the contract or that has the
Oh, I
customer,
see.
and
Okay.
they're sending me on site. So yeah, to the customer, I'm a contractor.
I see.
Yeah.
MSP, can you what does that stand for? Just so I'm clear.
Managed service provider.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's still, one of the things, and I'm not sure how old you are. I turned 40 this year, and you know,
Okay. I turned
I,
48 today.
okay. So and I think kind of where you're at in that season of life, and maybe you can relate to this, and you always kind of go back to your core values, like whenever you're making, especially big life decisions, like am I in alignment with this? And one of the things that has really spoke loudly to me in this stage, which we're fairly similar ages here,
Yeah.
is reliability and thinking about reliability and really security around, the decisions that you make for your career. And we're going to certainly get into the IT and the work that you do for IT, but reliability certainly plays a big factor there as well, and kind of the digital age that we live in, and how you secure your computers and your networks, and how we're all operating online.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Like when it comes to kind of like the values and how you make decisions, and how did that play into your decision making when you're going through that?
Uh, Going through just this starting up, deciding we want to go into business for ourselves.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, just, and this is something that as you're talking, it just kind of comes to mind, like thinking about like kind of your value system
Yeah.
and how it drives some of your decisions, and where it kind of factors into really like the business that you're building.
Sure.
Would you mind kind of sharing a little bit
No, not
about
at all. Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
values that you have? Yeah.
Yeah. So we are a a Christian based business. So our Christianity, our biblical worldview informs everything that we do and the way that we see the world. And so with that, integrity, ethics, and morality are at the top of our list of everything that we do, everything that we say, interactions that we have with people, the things that we do when people aren't watching. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the true test of your character. And so because we again, because we have that worldview, that's our value system, I guess, to answer the question.
Yeah.
Is and again, it informs the way that we operate and the decisions that we make and how and when we make those decisions.
I'm a Christian, and I come from those same values, and, hearing your story, and taking this step and going to business for yourself, it to me, it's like so clear that it's God's work that's
Yeah.
positioning you to take that move. And,
Amen.
so I just, just taking those moments just to kind of recognize like the seasons of life and the work that God does and positioning
Yeah.
you to take those next steps that's going to really bring opportunities sometimes that you never even foresee to be possible and that wouldn't be possible in some other positions that you would previously have with working through MSPs and so forth.
Oh, absolutely. And like I told you, I mean, we registered Yesteck LLC with the State Corporation Commission in February of last year, and we had kicked around the idea of working together. But like I said, we were both very comfortable in
Yeah.
corporate America, and we probably weren't going to do that unless we were pushed.
Mm.
And again, providentially, that's exactly what happened because not only did we both get laid off within like a month of each other, I was actually working two corporate jobs. I was working my full-time job at Philip Morris doing the architecture thing, and then I was also a fractional IT director for a digital marketing agency that was completely or totally Mac based. So
Mm.
um, I was able to leverage that experience on the Mac side as well, and they were 100 plus employees. So,
Yeah.
I was making a really good income, and to even think about leaving that and going into something completely unknown, even though the desire was expressed, was going to probably take what it took to get us to do this. So, just
Yeah.
like that, snap of a finger, our plates are completely cleared and the direction is so blatantly obvious that
Mm.
as the saying goes, when God closes a door, he opens a window, and that's exactly what happened. A
Mm.
window of opportunity to come together, father and son, start a business, be able to influence the culture around us.
Yeah.
We want to influence the community culture. We want to enhance small business growth through the intentional use of technology and to leave a legacy of morality, ethics, and integrity to the generations that succeed us.
I love that. That's such a great way to put it. I do want to shift into talking a little bit more about kind of the IT landscape and what you're doing and how you're working with small to medium sized businesses
Yeah.
as an IT service provider. Um,
Yeah.
I want to start with talking about, I remember I'm in kind of my second chapter as well in business, doing website design and so forth, podcasting. And, before I used to own a local business, brick and mortar, and that was back in 2020. And I've just noticed, even just in the past 4 years, how much has changed in
Mhm.
how we work. And today, especially post COVID, where there's this remote work environment, you've got staff and working out of their homes, and maybe there's an office, and things are kind of all over the place. It might be people working from different countries. How has that impacted, I guess, the way that you work, like with the remote work environment being
Right.
one of those factors?
Yeah, I would say for us, having just opened our doors in June of this year, the normalization of remote work was really already firmly in place at that
Yeah.
point, right?
Mm.
So our service stack already takes this into account and how we look to protect those endpoints in a distributed workforce, right? So for us, that's going to come in the form of an EDR, which is an endpoint detection and response application. And it's like the antivirus of old, but more sophisticated.
Yep.
And then we like to install an RMM or a remote monitoring and management app, and that really gives us the ability to make sure that machines are being properly patched and maintained. And then last but certainly not least is going to be the always on VPN connection.
Yep.
And that's just going to ensure that none of your internet traffic can be hijacked, and it can also be configured in a way that puts the computer virtually on the company network, where it can also be bound by predetermined policies. So, for instance, you're out at a Starbucks or at a hotel and you open your laptop, we have it configured to where that VPN automatically connects. So at that instant, your internet traffic is being scrambled and you're not susceptible to someone sitting in the corner sniffing traffic and pulling your data away. And so again, in a distributed workforce environment, that becomes extremely valuable.
Yeah, I would imagine, especially with you know, people working from home, it's like you really don't know. And I'm not working in IT at the level that you're operating within.
Right.
And but I would imagine it's like they have their own little internet connection. I guess sometimes the company gives them the computer. Maybe they're using their own computers. It seems like there's some subjectivity there that people might need to kind of think about when it comes to security, within their business.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I would say that the bigger the company, you're gonna get to a point as a company where you're going to so the bring your own device is convenient for a solopreneur looking to grow the business and bring on employees, right? Especially
Mhm.
early on,
Yeah,
where you don't want to be the one issuing $1,000 or $1,500 laptop to an employee that you bring on because you already have other expenses
right.
associated with that hire. What's another $1,000 or $1,500 is a big deal, right? But you're going to get to a point in size, hopefully, if you continue to keep growing, that you're going to want to take control of that and start buying devices and issuing them. You want to start issuing company-owned assets. And
Yeah.
essentially, when you get to that level, you'll want to engage an IT services and support firm because at that stage, other foundational processes need to be solidified and implemented. And the best way to do that is to bring in a professional, right?
Yeah.
Outsource what you don't know. Things like asset tracking, device patching, establishing company controls and compliances from an IT perspective. All these things are going to help build towards a sustainable platform to grow your business from. And so that's down the road, but how soon you get there really is just determinant upon your product, your sales team, all those good things. But early on, if you're doing this yourself, certainly you want to make sure that you're doing the things that I had touched on earlier in terms of having your own EDR, your own always
Mhm.
on VPN, and 2FA, which two-factor authentication, everything you can.
Yeah.
And so that's going to help make sure that that your own asset and intellectual property and all that stuff stays secure while you're trying to grow your business.
Mm. Yeah, there's certainly the scale of growth that plays a factor in that. That was one of the
Yeah,
questions I had for you was like, from the startup and where resources are a lot more scarce and
yeah,
you have to be more nimble all the way up until you have a full-time staff, kind of like how should be people be thinking through those stages of growth in terms of,
yeah, right.
creating the IT network that's going to best serve their business. What are some
Yeah,
of
exactly. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, I was gonna kind of follow up on that a little bit in terms of the I know sometimes, especially in the world of tech, and then you're working with people, and I imagine you probably come across this a lot. You'll have clients that are, I guess, tech illiterate. I don't know the nicest word to use for it. They're just
Yeah,
it just the
right,
tech just goes right over their head,
right.
and you walk in and you see kind of the way that they set up their business. Is there any, I guess, any any kind of education or any things that you have? Any sort of, I guess, paradigm shift that you have to like work them through in terms of how to really be thinking about security for their business. And I know a low hanging fruit example is like the social engineering that scammers will use. And it's like thinking about, through
Yeah.
your own behavior. But what are some of the, I guess, insights that you would offer to that person who maybe not be as tech savvy and are kind of getting started into the thinking about security for their network and their business online?
Yeah. Cybersecurity is the big buzzword these days, and as if it's something new. I mean, obviously, it really isn't, right? But it has certainly taken on a life of its own, and rightly so, because as
Yep.
we continue to ever evolve in this digital landscape, it is the surface area that cyber bad actors have is expanding. So
Mm,
the reach is far and the threat is real and the tools are sophisticated. So, from a small business owner perspective or just an individual, Um, Training is especially important. Whether you're doing that on a company level where you engage a firm to do training, behavioral training, to your point,
Hmm.
because typically it's known that when a breach occurs, some kind, whether that be a ransomware moment or just uh, a data breach of whatever sort,
Yep.
that the majority of the time it's not the computer, it was the user that allowed that to happen. And I think you had even mentioned phishing, spam emails, things like that. So
Yep.
it is so important, especially again, as your company grows, to educate your employees on what these things look like. They come through email, they come through, as you're talking about, too, in forms of social engineering. It is very important to know what to look out for. And even again, even if you're just a single person, and you're trying to stand up a business, the last thing you want to do is get wrapped up in this kind of
Yeah.
uh, activity. So you really need to be self-aware, and training is going to be a key for that. Um, and yeah, I mean that's training
Yep.
to be aware of the methods that bad actors will use to try to compromise your data is going to be the most important thing. And clearly, again, like I've already said, VPN, all EDR, these things that we can install on a machine that are going to help keep your machine safe, but you are the one behind the keyboard.
The VPN is something that I had never thought about in terms of security. And you had alluded to this earlier when you're talking about the coffee shop example, because that's a great example. A lot of people, myself included, will go and work out of a coffee shop. You don't
Yeah,
think about it. You're just there, you're drinking coffee, but you're saying that if you're not on a VPN, somebody could technically be in the corner and
it's
could,
open. It's wide open, right? I mean, think about it.
yeah,
It's a guest network.
right.
There's
Yeah.
no password. There's no there's nothing going on. I mean, if you have a laptop with the appropriate software, and it's not hard to get, you are basically able to uh, I don't know, from a layman's term, you're able to visualize this traffic. And
Mm,
depending on how busy that hotel lobby is or that coffee shop depending on what that person will have access to.
mm,
And I tell you that those that have a VPN that is scrambling that traffic, uh, they are not going to be able to be taken advantage of. So it will greatly reduce the number of potential victims
yeah.
that bad actor is going to have. But yes, it is very real. If you're just sitting there and you open up and you make a connection to a guest Wi-Fi network, uh,
Yeah.
and you have not encrypted anything, then whatever you do, uh, you might as well be shouting it out loud if there's someone there to take advantage of it, right? I mean, it's
Right.
not always the case, but you don't know. I mean, when I was just in a Starbucks yesterday, a brief business meeting, and there were at least four other people in there typing away on their computers. We all assume, oh, well, they're in here doing the same thing I am. They're getting work done. But you don't know. You don't know
Yeah.
what they're doing. They
Well,
look innocent enough.
and I'd imagine a scammer would probably think like people aren't thinking about VPNs while they're in
Yeah,
Starbucks. Let me go.
right.
That's a good target for me to go and exploit.
Exactly. And he's not hanging out in the corner in a hoodie looking all suspicious, right? I mean, it
That's
just,
what I think they're going to look like, though, right?
yeah,
Like
they're
they
just
got to have the
blending in.
hoodie. It's got to be,
Right.
you can't
Yeah.
see their face. It's all
Yeah.
shadowed. Maybe some sunglasses on, right?
Right. And that would be great because then we would immediately know, all right, something's
Yeah.
not right. But no, I mean they just weave their way into the crowd, and you don't know any difference. So having that always on VPN
Hmm.
is essential. Yeah.
Is there any other things like that people might be missing that are putting them at significant risk?
Well, I mean, again, I would say that, yeah, having that always on VPN whenever you're out on public Wi-Fi is going to be huge. And again, as businesses continue to have a distributed workforce, from a business perspective, it just
Mhm.
becomes ever more essential. But again, the other component is going to be just that behavioral training.
Yeah.
That is huge. If you have a VPN and you have behavioral training, so you know what to look for,
Mm.
whether it's you yourself just going to a website and looking at examples and just leaning into educating yourself, or if you're a little bit larger and you're paying an IT firm to come in and do some training, or even like with us, we leverage a service where we will implement fake phishing emails into your organization. So at random times to random people, your employees are going to get these phishing emails. Now, they're from us, so they're not actually malicious. But if you click on any of those things and if you take any of those actions, then we get notified. And then
Oh.
from that point, we're able to coach that individual and say, okay, what went wrong? What made you do this? And then just kind of educate
Mm.
that boy. And again, it's all for the good.
Yeah.
There's no penalties here. It's just to educate the employee and then to strengthen the wall of separation for that company. So to prevent these things from occurring on a larger scale.
I'd imagine too, like if I were that employee that accidentally clicked kind of your test, right? This is
Yeah.
a phishing test, and I click, and then I get notified about it. I probably would be a lot more careful, knowing that
Yes, exactly.
not
Right.
feeling as if I'm in trouble, but knowing like, oh wow, I did make that mistake, and I didn't
Yes.
even realize I was even making a mistake. And
And that's all it takes. And look, man, I
eh,
mean, like I said, in the 9 years that I was just at Altria, Philip Morris, they implemented the same thing. And I'm not proud to say it, but I clicked on them a few times because
mhm.
sometimes you're going through your workflow and
Yeah.
an email pops up and you get momentarily distracted. You brush over it really quick and you think it looks legit, so you click on this thing and then boom, you get the pop-up that tells you that this was a phishing email, and you would have fallen victim to it if it was real. So it happens to the best of us, but to your point, it even if I'm busy doing something and I see an email come in, it makes me take that extra couple of seconds to just give it my intense focus before I take any action on it. And if I'm not ready to, then I just don't do anything with it until I can give it the proper attention it deserves.
Yeah, I think that's what they're banking on is
Yeah.
people being distracted or just kind of in their zone and not thinking. I know there was one scam that was going around. It was they would call your phone, and but it would look like it was Apple calling you, like Apple company, and
Right.
they would get you on the phone, and then they would say, "Hey, there's been a problem. We need you to just log into your phone," and they would conveniently, I guess, ask for your whatever your lock screen password. I have a
Right.
friend this happened to, and he said, yeah, it sounded legit. It actually showed up Apple on the
Yeah.
phone, so I thought it was actually Apple calling me. And one of my like rules of thumb is like anytime somebody asks me over the phone for any kind of sensitive information, I always just know that I always
Yeah.
question that. Like, don't
Yeah.
ever give anything sensitive over the phone unless I've
Yeah.
engaged a call first. And
And that's a very good point that it transcends our computers because really
mm,
our phones are computers.
yeah.
And so that is another area of potential compromise is our phones. And I've heard recently where I'm sure we've all experienced getting a phone call. You don't recognize the number, but you pick it up, you say hello, and then it almost either you get that long silence or someone comes on and says hello, who is this or something. They're trying to get you to say hello and your name, and they're recording it so that they can then use that information if they've compromised any of your accounts that has voice recognition for you to say your name.
Mm,
So yeah, it just the levels at which people will go to steal other people's hard-earned money and intellectual property instead of just earning it legitimately is astonishing. But it's out there, and it's so hard because I don't think like that, but you really to a degree kind of have to. It's a dark place, but you kind of have
yeah.
to kind of be, you have to wire your brain that way, especially when, well, really in all respects, whether you're in IT and you're an IT services firm and you're in the business where other companies are entrusting you to be their IT department, whether that's your job or you're just going through living in this world with all of these electronics.
Yep.
Just to protect yourself, you've got to be so aware of what's going on, and it almost feels like it's something new every day.
Well, now we have, now I have all this AI going around where you can create the deep
Yeah.
fakes, and I mean,
Yeah.
I've used this in content before. It's a feature where it'll learn your voice, and you can use this in podcast editing. Like, say there's a word I want to insert into and it's like, oh crap, I wish I would have said that word, and I need to put it. The AI will learn your voice and recreate the word, and it'll sound just like you.
Mhm.
So and I would imagine that with all of the AI that's coming out, that it's just going to create a whole other layer of complexity in
Yeah.
how you help people stay secure and what we need to do to.
Already is, yeah,
Yeah.
already is. And I think, yeah, yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, that is an added layer and something that all of the tools that are used to deploy to machines and to protect those machines uh, has to take that into account. And for instance, like the EDR that I'd mentioned, the endpoint detection and response, it actually uses AI itself. Now, this is an
Hmm.
AI implementation for the good, but it's able to use that so that it is um, instantly aware and always learning. So again, unlike the antivirus apps of old, this one has a brain, and it's because of AI. Generative AI has allowed it to be more sophisticated.
Hmm. It's an interesting time to be alive and to be
Yeah,
working in the
yeah,
world that we live in. Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Well, let me, I want to, we're kind of getting near the end here. I want to talk a little bit more about, I always like to give you the opportunity to talk about what people can expect when they want to work with you. If somebody wants to reach out, and what's that process look like, and how can people get started in working with you in their business?
Yeah. So they can start by going to yesteck.io, and that's YESTECK.io. From there, we have done what we believe to be a great job at laying out the services that we offer, the ability to click book a meeting on basically every page. We've got a couple of freebie downloads too that you can look at. And as informative as we possibly can be. We have transparency in pricing, so that's on our site as well. But that would be a great place to start in terms of just having a discovery call. Because if
Yep.
you are in a situation where you either are growing to the point where you think now is the right time
Hmm.
to make that leap from doing it yourself and having the BYOB kind of standpoint on employees bringing their own machines, and you want to get into the more, um, I guess you would say, corporately managed aspect of things.
Yep.
We certainly help navigate that, and yes, we do have our transparent pricing on the site. But when it comes to startups, we certainly do have a special place in our heart for startups, and we know that money is certainly a concern, but we don't want that necessarily to be a roadblock. And so, with that, depending on the size of your company and where you're at, we will certainly work with you to try to get you stood up, the right foundation in place that you can grow from, but without breaking the bank.
Awesome.
So, yeah, and
Yeah.
then again, for larger companies that are already established, maybe you already have, and you probably do, you should already have either an in-house IT department or an outsourced IT firm that you may not be happy with. And so if you want to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for and what they claim to be is implemented and currently in use, we can certainly do a technology business review
Mm.
and and shore up all of that and just go from there.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure to link that up in the show notes for anybody who wants to reach out to you, Matt, on helping them with their IT solutions. And that's YESTECK.io. YESTECK.io,
That's right.
right?
Yep.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Yesteck.io. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Matt, this has been great. I appreciate you, especially sharing a lot of the risk and kind of how to think about navigating that risk, in terms of, the world that we live in today. We're so digital and online and remote,
Yeah.
how we all operate, that this is such a critical area that business owners need to prioritize and how they're operating. And you've been very helpful in uncovering some of those pieces that I think will really be helpful.
Good, good. And I will just close with this from a non-technical perspective, just as someone that has recently started up their own business. And I would say that if you're looking to take that step, um, if I can just give a few pointers, things that
Yeah.
I have just realized in this short period of time that I've actually had to jump in with both
Mm.
feet. I would just say that be prepared to embrace the unknown, right?
Yep.
You don't know what you don't know, and you will be drinking from a fire hose at times. For me, I've done IT for 28 years. The technical background is what I have, whether it be from a small MSP level to an enterprise level company like Philip Morris Altria, where they're 10,000 plus, and I was working in an enterprise. It's a much different focus than a smaller IT services firm because you're not working with companies that are 10 and 15 and
Mm.
even 50 employees. You're on a much grander scale. Um, but there's going to be, so my point there is that while technology is what I do, I've spent the last 5 months now doing prospecting and marketing and sales and the other component that I never had to do in all of these years because again I was fulfilling someone else's dream. Someone else was making these business connections and
Yeah.
getting these contracts and then just paying me a salary to fill that role. So now I'm on the other side of that and I'm having to be the business development slash VP of sales person all rolled into one. So thankfully I have an affable personality so I can lean into it, but it's not what I've spent, nearly 30 years doing. So I would just say be prepared to embrace the unknown is certainly one.
Mm.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay? I
Yeah.
mean, and remember that on the other side of discomfort is growth. So
Yeah.
lean into it. It's not easy when you're starting up to going into all of these new business networking events, and
Yeah.
there's all these unfamiliar faces, and it's uncomfortable. But you need to go in there. You need to lean in. You need to introduce yourself. You need to try to start a meaningful, genuine conversation, and let those connections organically develop. And then I would also say understand your personal budget and have at least 4 to 6 months of savings to pull from because, while you're in the hustle to stand up your own business and get it profitable, you're likely not taking a paycheck.
Yeah.
And that's certainly been a reality that has come to me. Thankfully, I had severance from the layoff, so that gave me a good runway to get me to where I needed to be. And then lastly, I would just say lead with integrity, ethics, and morality, because word of mouth is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And if you are letting these things inform your every action, then that word of mouth is going to be a great thing.
Yes. Absolutely. I think word of mouth represents there's a statistic out there. I'm giving a range here, but I believe it's something like 80% or more
Mhm.
of
Yeah,
marketing leads comes from word of mouth. And it's
yeah,
it's key, and it really comes back to how you show up. You make really good points, and I appreciate you sharing that for people that are thinking about, or maybe they're already in that mode of startup. And there's a quote from Virginia Satir that's always stuck with me, and it's that most prefer the misery of certainty over this. Hold on. Most prefer the certainty of misery over the misery of uncertainty.
yes. There you go.
And
Right.
and
That's Yeah,
It's like when you have
that's
that
human
stable
nature.
paycheck or the, it's
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's
right.
like, well, I may not be happy, but at least I know it's certain. But,
Exactly.
there could be a chance that you could have everything that you ever wanted, but it's going to require you to deal with some uncertainty.
Yes,
And
that's right.
it creates
Right.
a lot of emotions come up, and it can be very volatile. So I
Yeah,
think,
and
yeah,
anything worth having
yeah,
is going to be hard, and you got to work for it.
that's
And
right.
but you put in the time and the effort, and if you're doing it with the right motives, then I believe that not only will it succeed, but it will succeed long term.
Mm. Absolutely. Love it. Matt, this has been great. Appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Appreciate you having you on the podcast and sharing your
Absolutely.
message and your value. And I
Yeah.
encourage anybody here. Oh, you know what? Before we go, I do have one real quick question.
Sure.
I know you're based here in Central Virginia in Richmond.
Yeah.
Do you work with people? Can you work with people outside of Richmond, or is it mostly
Oh
local
yeah.
based? Okay.
Yeah, we can, given the nature of the business, we can certainly work nationally. We are just starting in Richmond because, again, as a young company, the marketing budget is only so large. So we are starting within our own backyard, so to speak.
Gotcha.
But should there be a need or an awareness of us
Yeah.
from some other state or further off location in Virginia that wants to benefit from our services, yeah, there's really no limitation anymore,
Okay.
especially with the prevalence of remote management tools and everything. The days of on-site visits, even for the customers that we currently have that are here, literally within 15 miles of our office,
Hmm.
we don't we don't visit uh, very often at all because there's no need. Everything could be done remotely. Now, I do try to get out there on a quarterly basis to do a quarterly business review, which is what any good MSP or IT services firm should be doing with their clients so that they can be looking at market trends, looking at how their business is operating, if anything has changed, and how we can use technology to leverage that and tighten it up and make it better. So, but other than those QBRs, the need to go on site is very rare. So yeah,
Okay.
there's no boundaries. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, that's good to know. And I asked that mostly for me personally, just because I've got a network that extends to the West Coast and
Sure.
some contacts in Arizona. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's just good to know where those if there's any limitations
Right. What they
geographically
are. Yeah.
there.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Well, again, thanks for coming on the show, and I'll make sure to keep that in mind for anybody listening. Also, to make sure to reach out to Matt if you got any questions about IT security and removing and reduce. Well, I guess I would say reducing that risk. You can never remove it fully, but definitely reducing that risk of breaches and the world we live in today with cybersecurity. So, Matt, thank you so much for being on the show and great having you.
Yeah, Jake, thank you so much for the opportunity and for the platform just to get more recognition and awareness for Yesteck IT services and just to be able to speak about all this good stuff. So it's been fun. Thank you for the great conversation.
All right.